What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. This is July 29th. It's listing your boy, number 177, here with that part-time and bitch, as they say. What, Jimmy? You have allowed Denise Salcedo to take over your show. Number of weeks over the last month Jimmy has worked, 1. Number of weeks Denise has worked, 4.
When I tell my story, are you going to feel bad for saying that?
Oh, for sure I'm going to feel bad about saying that. For sure.
Yeah, you will.
Because I know that if you had one dying breath, you'd go, I got to do the listing, you boy.
That's exactly what I would say.
I got to do the listing, you boy. That's what you would say.
Just like a 95-year-old smoker, whatever the hell that was you just did.
The landscape we're in. But you know what? I'm glad that you're back.
I appreciate it. I want to thank Denise for filling in. I thought she did a great job. I want to thank everyone that said, when's Jimmy coming back? Made me feel loved. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And at the end of the podcast today, I am going to explain where I have been for about the last month. And I was on the fence. This is a personal story I'm going to tell. And I was on the fence if I wanted to talk about this, but I'm going to. So at the end of the podcast, I will explain it. But I want to thank Denise. I thought she did an awesome job. A few people have asked, hey, could Sean and Denise maybe do a weekly show? I'm open to the idea. I'd have to check with Sean's schedule because he's a busy guy too.
We'll see how it hashes out when Shaq joins us. But because I don't know what that will do. That's the thing I keep telling people. Like those Saturdays being freed up for me a lot. Yeah. Jimmy, we hear a lot of people complain about 7-hour WrestleMania. That's every Saturday in the UFC. Yes. Every single Saturday. So I'll have people say, oh, well, at least the weekend's here and there's no pay-per-views. Oh, it doesn't matter. Derek Brunson's going to fight some guy on ESPN, and that's a 7-hour thing. So who knows what it'll kind of bring. There's a lot of opportunity right now.
A few weeks ago, I was going to watch the Masvidal fight, and I decided not to. And the next morning, I found out that show went until 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time.
It sure did.
That's insane. That's insane.
And fortunately, they were doing like the virtual scrums and press conferences a little bit more then. Yeah. So fighters would get in and get out, and it would move a lot quicker. And hey, you know, by the way, guys, follow Shaquille Majuri at Fight Shaq Fight. He's on the West Coast. So for him, it's not nearly as bad, but very excited for him to join. And also very excited to hear from you guys. Leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're watching on youtube.com/Fightful. If you're watching live, donate a super chat. Any amount gets your question or statement read on the air. We have our first. Evan Wright says, welcome back, Jimmy. Hope you're excited for hockey coming back this weekend. Can't wait to hear what you think of the wrestling world lately. Well, I'll tell you what. I was excited for baseball. It ain't going to last long, and the Reds suck.
Yeah, baseball... How many times have we talked about, and one of the stupid people stories today is going to be related in a way, but how many times have we talked about people in authoritative positions being so stupid? And it's amazing to me that these people, a lot of them are high salaried executive level people, are really dumb. And anybody thought baseball was going to work, they were stupid. Because they want the teams to continue traveling from city to, are you foolish?
Yeah.
It was never going to work. And if anything, kudos to the Canadian government. They would not let the Blue Jays play here. And so the Blue Jays had to pick a stadium in Buffalo. But I think a couple weeks and baseball is going to be finished, I think.
Yeah, I do too. So, and kind of bummed. First year in a while that I haven't been able to come to a Blue Jays game. But that's just the nature of where we are right now.
You're right. And I was convinced I was going to be able to get you in. If not necessarily for a Blue Jays game, just at least bring you for the annual summer trip. Yeah, no.
Nope.
I don't think they're opening the border till the end of the year.
It's all right. I'll take like a cashier's check instead or something like that.
Let's move on. So I was going to mention our new Fightful MMA editor, and you just did. And I'm glad you said his full name because first you said when Shaq joins us. And somebody might have been like, who? Shaquille O'Neal is joining Fightful?
I mean, I'm open to it. He was in a UFC video game once. And it was...
Yeah, I love Shaquille O'Neal. I would have a lot of fun with him if he ever wanted to do something with us.
If TNT doesn't do something with him and MJF down the line, they're missing out. Like a guy who likes wrestling, this huge dude, and then MJF who looks like $1 million and can talk his ass off. Oh, I would love. I would just love to see him go into the NBA on TNT set and then hear Charles Barkley just crap all over Shaq afterwards, just because that's what they do. That's one of the appealing parts of the NBA. But yeah, Shaquille Missouri joining us. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm not overly familiar with him. Sean kind of threw his resume at me, and I greenlit his financial demands, but didn't really know a lot about him. But he seems like a good guy. We've only chatted a little here and there. He seems like a good guy.
And I had somebody on the Q&A show ask me, "Hey, does that mean we're going to get a weekly podcast back?" Yes, it does. In addition to a lot of stuff I had posted on Twitter. Right now, I've made the YouTube kind of dark for the next couple of weeks. So I want him to start fresh. But the stuff that he's thrown at me is like list stuff, news shows, like a 10-minute news of the day show, companion podcasts, a lot of videos, reaction videos, a lot of good stuff coming your way on youtube.com/Fightful MMA Boxing and FightfulMMA.com. He gets started full-time next week, so I'm very excited for that. And our comment section on those live events are always great. We got like thousands of comments anyway. So keep your eye on it, guys. This was a big decision. Quite frankly, we could have cut the MMA section and made more money, but Jimmy was like, let's invest in this. Let's bring somebody on who can give it the proper attention, and I'm really, really pumped for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole premise of Fightful. I wanted Fightful to be a crossover combat sports site. And when you see, forget about even Brock Lesnar, Matt Riddle,
there you go.
Shayna Baszler, when you look at these people that have crossed over, to me, it's a natural marriage between the two. And so I wanted to keep doing it. So
we have some more well wishes. I hear you transitioning, Jimmy. You finish your sentence and you go, "Oh, let's get..." No. We can't do that. We got to let these people speak. Send a super chat, any amount, get your question or statement read on the air. Liam says, "So good to have Jimmy back. Much love, Fightful." And Jobber JJ496, Oli Davis #1 fan TM.
Oh, boy.
Says, "SRS, our savior." Welcome back, Jimmy. That's right. I will be on Quizzlemania today. Standing up for all you people. Evan Wright says, "Screw Shaq, Shaquille O'Neal. Give me Stephen A. Smith on Fightful." After hearing Stephen A. Smith break down fighting, no, I do not want that.
Yeah, and I should note as a side note, the 2 p.m. Eastern start time, I despise it.
Yeah.
I despise it. It doesn't jive with my schedule at all. I was 5 minutes late today because I just hate the 2 p.m. Eastern schedule. I'm doing it for Sean Ross Sapp. That's why I'm doing it. Let him go and reclaim the Quizzlemania championship. But one other thing before we get started here. So, you've been busy with the interviews, I've noticed. You got Gallows and Anderson, and you did EC3. So does that mean Sting's coming?
Well, that sounds like a personal question. But maybe Blue Chew can help him out with that. Anyway, I got a lot of stuff. I've got to... Man, see, the thing is, I want to tell people who I have in the can. But here's what always happens. When I tell somebody that I have him in the can... somebody else is like, "Oh, I'm going to hit him up and do an interview and get it out before Sean." So
right.
I can't do that.
Chris Van Vliet, we're looking at you.
Not really.
I'm kidding.
I actually connected Chris Van Vliet with Muhammad Hassan because...
I know. I was only kidding.
Yeah,
anyway.
but we love Chris, obviously. But there are... I have a recent WWE release in the can. I have an AEW act in the can. By the way, Jeremy Lambert's interview with Ricky Starks is out. I have a WCW veteran in the can who was close with AJ Styles. That's a good one. I have a former Impact Women's Champion who's coming out of retirement in the can. And then a former WWE Women's Champion in the can as well. That will all... And then, gosh, I've got like 6 or 7 making of finishers and all that stuff too. But I keep those around for years. So...
That sounds good.
That's what I do. I interview people who I think will be in WWE. I'll do a making a finisher with them. Then I'll sit on it for like a year. And then when WWE calls them up, I'm like, "Here you go, making a finisher," because it's evergreen.
There you go. I think I taught you that term, didn't I?
I think that I knew that term.
Did you? Are you sure?
You've never taught me anything. I'm going to learn how to take a month break from work.
Yeah. Boy, once again, are you going to feel like a bag of shit when you know why I've been away?
Yeah, I get the feeling I know what's coming.
Yeah.
It's just, Go ahead.
Okay. So last thing I want to do is I want to send condolences to the family of Regis Philbin. He passed away on July 24, which is my birthday, ironically enough. He was 1 month shy of his 89th birthday, so that's a hell of a run, hell of a life for him. And I got to say, and I don't know if you agree, but when I was growing up, my two favorite television personalities were Regis Philbin and Arsenio Hall. And the reason that they were my two favorites is because they were the only ones in the mainstream that treated wrestling with respect. You know, the rest of the mainstream, either they wouldn't talk about wrestling at all, or they would just make fun of it. And Regis and Arsenio had all the guys on. They had everybody on. Didn't matter if you were the champion. Didn't matter if you were a mid-level guy, if you were a tag team. And they were comedians, so they would poke fun when they could. But they had the utmost respect for pro wrestling. Arsenio Hall even had a match in studio one time, the Road Warriors and the Nasty Boys. So I love that about both those guys. And Regis, what can you say, 60 years on TV, Sean. He had a hell of a run, and it seemed like a good guy, too. I always liked him. He always seemed like a good guy, so...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of wrestling connections, obviously. I thought it was, quite frankly, a little surprising to me that they did a video. I gotta say, the fact that they didn't do like a video for Shad, they didn't do a video for a lot of people, I'm like, that does... I'm not saying, hey, don't do one for Regis, but there's a lot of people they should probably be doing videos for.
You're not wrong, but it's just a political thing because Regis and Vince were friends.
Sure.
So, and I remember once or twice, just on the show randomly, when there wasn't even a wrestling personality on the show, you know, when they would always start with just a little bit of chatter between the two hosts.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times that Regis just matter-of-factly would say that he had dinner with Vince McMahon like the night before.
Yeah.
so they were tight. So, you know, it is what it is. But I really liked him. I thought that he was really good to pro wrestling. And like I said, 89 is pretty solid.
Chris Rain says, welcome back, Jimmy. So happy to have you back. Hannah Moore says, happy belated birthday, Jimmy. How was your birthday?
Actually, it was pretty awesome, to be honest with you. It was pretty good. I got 2 cakes because my wife got me a cake that had, you know, the technology today, Sean, you could take a drawing and turn it into the top of a cake.
Uh-huh.
So my kid did a drawing for me.
Seems really unhealthy that they can do that.
Well, they print it. They whatever, I don't know what the technology is. But so I had one cake where my daughter drew a drawing for me and we put it on. And then Nicola, my office manager, who you know, Sean, my doorbell rings. I open the door. There's Nicola with a cake and everything. And I think I posted the picture on Twitter. Because of COVID and everybody's at home, she managed to get everybody to take a picture from home and then put it all together into one big picture. Yeah. So it's awesome. That was good.
Mine was the best. Evan Wright says, Jeremy's interview with Ricky Starks ruled. Also, whenever you get to it. Thoughts on AEW this week? Feel like they've got a bigger sense of urgency right now. I mean, I feel like they've always had that sense of urgency. That's one of the things I like about AEW. They always seem like they're putting out important stuff, Jimmy. And that's what makes me care about their show. The women's tag title or women's tag tournament, we'll see how it goes, but... Any thoughts on kind of how AEW's been rocking and what they got going?
I think it's the better show of the two. Now, I also think when you've got Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley and all those other guys on one, and then on the other one you've got, I mean, no disrespect to Adam Cole and Keith Lee, but Jericho is a top guy. If he was on Raw or SmackDown, he'd be main event.
Yeah.
And so it's a little difficult. I will say this. I think AEW has always had pressure for 2 reasons. The first is obviously a new thing coming out of the gate. Everybody thought they weren't going to last, so they had to really produce. I also think they've had a lot of pressure because they're going against WWE's third-tier brand. And the last thing you want to do is lose to WWE's developmental brand on Wednesday night. And so I think for those 2 reasons, they've been very pressured. I think they've more than delivered. I think the show mostly is good. I mean, it's not a home run every week, but I think for the most part, it's been good.
We'll wrap up our Q&A, or not our Q&A, but our Fightful Select questions before we get into some topics.
Yep.
Frank Aguilera says, Jimmy, I love you hitting your business or hitting you with business questions on your quarterly Q&A. When's the next one?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I forgot all about it.
You're probably behind.
I am probably behind. I'll do one next week.
Yeah, I don't think you did one for the last quarter, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll do one next week. I apologize.
Yeah, we'll
Been a little busy. I'll get to it.
Rob Wilkins says, glad you're back. My Minnesota Wild and Avs are about to start. Jimmy, your thoughts on the 2020 versions of Randy Orton and Bayley? Personally, I think they're two of the best things on TV right now.
Yep, I'm going to talk about Bayley later on, and I'm going to address comments Ember Moon made because I disagree with what Ember Moon said. I think Bayley and Sasha have been a great act, and hopefully they do eventually do the split. We'll talk about it later, but I think Bayley's been great. It's funny because when she turned heel, I thought, man, did they ever waste her as a babyface? She was a made woman. She was the John Cena of the women's division, and they screwed it up, and they did screw it up. But Bayley has completely embraced being a heel. I think her and Cole are hilarious. And she, I think, has probably benefited the most of anyone by COVID because of the fact she can hear Cole on commentary and she plays off of it so well. If they have an arena full of people, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So I think she's really benefited. And Orton has been, I think having Edge back really motivated Randy Orton because by his own admittance, he was kind of on cruise control for a while.
Yes.
And I think having Edge and having something to sink his teeth into really motivated him. And so that's really what it takes with him. He always had the talent.
Yeah.
But it comes down to how motivated is he.
And Throwback, we see your super chat, very generous one. Thank you so much. We will get to that as we talk about Bayley, since he mentioned that we're going to talk about that later.
Yep.
But what do you got today on the list?
WWE Business is where we're going to start.
Boy, I said, Jimmy's back because we got a Vince thumbnail.
Whenever I read bullshit, I have to call out the bullshit because I can't help it. That's what I do.
I feel you.
And on July 16, and I really want to give props to Brandon Thurston, a friend of ours, and he heads up WrestleNomics. And he was the one that uncovered this. So on July 16, WWE held their annual shareholders meeting. They had to do it virtually this year. I actually had posted the proxy notice on Twitter because I'm a shareholder and I got the proxy notice and I could have participated in the shareholders meeting if I wanted to. I chose not to because I knew there was no chance in hell they would ever ask my question. But so for the first time ever, they posted the audio from that annual meeting on their corporate website. And I'm guessing, again, they probably did it because they had to do it virtually. And Brandon Thurston transcribed the whole thing. And there were some interesting points out of it that I wanted to kind of cover. They did a Q&A at the end, and they got asked some interesting questions this time. Unfortunately, most of the answers were fluff and bullshit. And so I'm only going to mention the stuff that was remotely interesting. The first one was they were asked about different payment tiers for the network because that's been a rumor for a while. And Frank Riddick is the interim CFO. He said that at this time, they don't believe that that's the optimum approach for maximizing subscription value. He said they want to focus on leveraging the free tier to let users sample the content, and then hopefully they're going to convert them to paid subscribers, which they won't. Yes. But they're hoping that they will. So that was the first point. Somebody asked what management's plan is to improve television ratings. Leave it to Vince McMahon to spew out 5 minutes of utter nonsense and bullshit, and that's what he did. I'll read one quote from Vince McMahon, which inspired the thumbnail, Sean, that I put together. Vince McMahon said, quote, "We have a 30-plus year track record of creating compelling characters and engaging a variety of audiences, and we obviously remain confident we can continue that with our collective ability, even in the most challenging environments and with no live audience." And then what he did, do you remember in the Q1 call where he kept on putting over WrestleMania, even though WrestleMania fell into Q2?
Yes.
And he did it because he was desperate to find something they could spin into positivity. They were looking for something.
Sure.
He did it again on this call. He said that WWE is still the #1 show on USA Network. Something tells me that if you tell a USA Network that, that's not going to make them any happier about spending over $200 million a year in rights.
Yes.
But that was one thing he said. He said that they consistently are the #1 broadcast show on Fridays among the key demos, and that's the big thing now people talk about is key demos.
Yep.
And, of course, he didn't talk about how their viewership numbers are about half what the top show is in the same time slot. But is what it is. And then something else Vince McMahon's been doing a lot. He did this in the Q1 earnings call, and he did it again. He tried to put over their digital numbers, tried to put over their digital engagement. Their digital numbers do not pay the bills.
Exactly.
They do not have a company based on their digital numbers, and he knows it. But he's stretching so badly to look for positivity that he's pointing to the digital numbers. Kind of is what it is, I guess. Do you have anything to say before I move on?
Fuzzy math is like WWE's, like it's the theme of these calls anymore. And it's not just them. It's like when they do media calls too. It's just how can we spin this? There's no real
It's gotten
transparency.
very annoying.
Yeah,
and I mean, at one point they asked Stephanie a question about, the women's roster, and she just spewed a bunch of bullshit. She got the Bella twins in there and total divas and all this crap. They basically, whatever question you ask, and Triple H has gotten as bad as any of them, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Whatever you ask, all they do is they just kind of spin it with their propaganda crap, and you kind of have to just kind of learn to weed through that. Yeah, that's what they do. Well, the last thing that I want to mention is they were asked by somebody, is AEW taking some of your market share? Which I thought was a great question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Triple H has gotten pretty good training from his pops-in-law. And so here's the quote from Triple H. He said, "To me, there's a moment in time when you begin something and it's very exciting and it's fresh and there's some interest in it, certainly. But it's a big world. We continue to be focused on our product, continue to be focused on the development of our stars and our performers. And as Vince said earlier, we have a very long track record of doing this incredibly successfully for many, many, many years." He said many 3 times. Yeah, it was what it was. But here's the interesting thing. So we're doing this on July 29. Tomorrow is July 30. Tomorrow is the Q2 earnings call. And what's going to be
right?
Yeah, so now it's very interesting. They're doing it at 4:00 Eastern time tomorrow. What time does the market close, Sean?
It's 4 or 4:30, right?
4:00 Eastern time. They're doing the earnings call after the market closes.
Man,
I'm sure they have an explanation, but whatever it is, I'm probably not going to believe it. But the one thing that I'm really looking forward to on this call is that when they did all those cost cuts back in April, when they released a lot of people and furloughed a lot of people and announced that they were putting plans for new headquarters on hold and all of that, that fell into this quarter. And so I'm going to be very interested to see if anything has happened with their U.S. rights fees, because if nothing has happened and if they're getting paid on time and there's no, reduction or anything being withheld, they will report the highest profits they ever have this quarter because of so many cost cuts and because they haven't had to have their crew on the road and they've been producing everything out of the PC every week. It'll be a record day for them if that's what they announce. If there's an issue with their rights fees, that's going to be a whole other story, but we'll find out.
We will, because, I mean, that was the hot rumor for a while. Oh, well, their contract mandates that they be live. Well, evidently not. Or at least we're going to find out.
I think they got to have a small number of shows taped, I believe.
Half of them are taped now.
Well, I think they've probably pivoted.
Wait, no. Everything is taped right now.
Everything
except for
is
their
taped.
Pay-per-views. All their TV is taped. It's nuts. We have a super chat from Melissa Martinez who says, "Just wanted to say hi from Sean's favorite city, San Antonio, Texas. I hate San Antonio. Love you guys. Keep up the good work." But I do like Melissa. Thank you for the super chat. Jobber JJ Ford. I'm not running through all that. You know what his name is. Why doesn't NXT have a card for their shows and add matches on Twitter? They are on national TV. AEW every week has a card before they go off the air. Do you think that helps AEW's viewership or not? Because Eric Bischoff has said in the past, oh, well, if you know what's going to happen, there's no spontaneity. And I'm like, well, if you're not creative whatsoever.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, the only thing Bischoff was worried about was if you're not live and if you announce your card, then your competitor is going to tell you the results.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. Now, I mean, I look at it like this. If you announce the card in advance with the talent that you announce are mid to lower card, it doesn't make a difference. But if you announce the card in advance and it features main eventers, it makes a difference. And I find that in the case of AEW, they tend to feature Cody, Jericho. I'm still not convinced that the Young Bucks have hit the top level. I feel like their stock has dropped since they started AEW. But they'll typically announce, if a Young Bucks have a match or Moxley or somebody like that. I think it makes a difference. And I think to answer their question, it's because WWE is flying by the seat of their pants so much, I think. I think until they actually have the show in the can, they don't even know yet what they're going to produce. And it makes it hard. In AEW, they've kind of proven that they plan things out far enough in advance. I mean, you look at Gallows and Anderson, they hadn't even signed them yet, and they already had things planned out for them.
Yes.
So they've proven. Now, I will say this also. AEW is still kind of in the honeymoon phase, and I will be interested to see how things are for Tony Khan, say 2-3 years in when it becomes work.
Yeah.
Because when that happens, maybe suddenly they're not going to be as prepared as they are now. Now it's still shiny and new.
Yeah.
But give them props. They have been much more prepared, I think. I think they need to get Jim Ross off the post-show podcasts.
That was a little wild, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what they got to understand is that those guys come off bitter. And I don't know if Tony Khan feels it or even thinks about it. Jim Ross and Taz came off bitter on that podcast. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to say your show's better. It's another thing to completely shit all over WWE.
Well, came off like bitter. He did say, DVR them, we have the better show. I kind of like it. I'm all for it.
Oh, I'm cool with the competition aspect, no question. I'm cool with that. Yeah. But you don't want to come off like you're bitter. I mean, Taz was ho-humming and sighing. And what was the quote Taz said where he was trying to say, we don't insult your intelligence, but then he called everybody dumb shits?
Yes.
Like, come on.
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. Evan Wright says, the moment I saw the 10-man tag for this week, I was hooked. Tornado tag sounds wild. Cody versus Warhorse sounds great. And then a tag title match. There's always important stuff on AEW. There's like a title match or a top contender match or something like that. And that's what I like. Weekly TV needs to have stakes. And I know that some people will say, oh, well, matches are a foregone conclusion. You could argue that. But I'm enjoying the way that they handle stuff so far. Patel Ron 6 says, search Charles Barkley San Antonio on YouTube. If he's crapping on San Antonio, I'm going to love it. I'll tell you that right now. And Crimson 94 says they have content from the network going to NBC's Peacock streaming service. Yeah, I mean, that relationship is really in-depth there. I was actually a little bit surprised that they gave up SmackDown to Fox, but I thought that they would be completely in bed. But, I mean, if you're investing that much money into WWE, you should probably own a piece of the pie too. But yeah.
Well, I think that WWE, they thought that their archives were more valuable than they have proven to be.
Yes.
And so that's why they thought, I think Vince went so far as to say at the time, we're going to get a deal by the end of the quarter. I think he went so far as to say that.
They wanted one.
And it didn't happen. And they can say COVID had something to do with it, which it very well could have. But I feel like putting that content on Peacock wouldn't surprise me if they're doing it as a make good for free.
Yeah.
Just based on where things are at.
And here's the thing. If you want to let your peacock fly and maximize the value of your dick, check out BlueChew.com and use that code FIGHTFUL. Look at Jimmy acting like I don't have graphics, even though I don't right now.
That's exactly it.
Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. So you know they work, but they work a lot better, faster, and they're cheaper. Right now, you don't need to be hitting up the doctor or a pharmacy unless you got something wrong with you, and you don't have to have anything wrong with you to use Blue Chew. It's a performance enhancer, a confidence booster. It's a chewable, so it gets into your system a lot faster, and it's ready when you are, or it gets you ready whenever they are. It ships to your door discreetly. No in-person doctor's visits. No waiting in line at the pharmacy. They work with Blue Chew affiliated physicians to get you prescribed. This is good stuff, my friends. Like I said, you don't have to have a problem to use Blue Chew. It's just, you want to, I don't know, you want to show off that peacock. The bright, vivid colors, so to speak. I mean, I don't know.
Lots of reds. Lots of reds.
Maybe a purple. Maybe a hue. Hopefully, the only thing blue is Blue Chew. It's that good stuff, guys. Hit them up at Blue Chew. Let them know you heard about them from us. But use that code FIGHTFUL. Get your first shipment free. All you got to do is pay $5 shipping. BlueChew.com. Thank you, Jimmy.
There you go, man. I'm always welcome to help here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mr. Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. And the first thing I got to say is there were actually people on Twitter who were very critical of me to the point of being mean to me just because I said it for what it is, that it is a work. It's an obvious work. And I will say kudos to those two guys that they managed to sell some people tickets, because some people on social media were so passionate of what a shoot this was that they tore a strip off of me for calling it a work. Very obviously a work, and I'll even go so far as to say that Pat McAfee didn't do a very good job.
Really?
Because I felt that he laid it on too quickly.
Okay.
Cole, I thought, did a much better job, because Cole tried to do a friendly, normal shoot interview, talking about family, talking about starting out in the independents, and McAfee, for no apparent reason, would just throw in digs for no reason. You know, like they would just be starting out, and then McAfee. I wrote a few of them down. They'd be starting out, and then McAfee, he'd be talking about something completely irrelevant. He'd be like, "Oh, so you started out here, and then you did this, and by the way, you said a lot of disrespectful things about me, but anyway." Like he would throw things in for no reason. But anyway, it was obviously a work. Good for them that they got attention, and good for them that they sold people a ticket. Shame on Mark Henry for calling it real shit. Because he damn well knows it's a work, and he's just being a company guy, I guess. Now, my question for you is, do you think it's going to turn into a match?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
And I think that Cole is good enough to make... And I think Pat is athletic enough.
He's an athlete, yeah.
To where they can make something like this work. Now, granted, he was a punter, but he's a big dude. I think
he's in shape, too.
Yes. I mean, here's the thing. He's 33 years old. Like, he's not, like, over the hill. And a lot of people are like, oh, I saw somebody say, NFL washout. No. He voluntarily left the NFL. Like, literally, maybe 6 weeks after he was named to the Pro Bowl, he was like, I think I'm done. At, like, 29 years old. So,
good for him. Did he have concussion issues or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I think he had knee issues.
Okay.
But right now, I fully believe that right now, he'd be able to play in the NFL if he so chose. But he's very successful outside of that because of his colorful personality. Mm-hmm. I think they can make something fun out of this. They clearly have no plans for Undisputed Era, which shows you how much Raw and SmackDown's mentality has infiltrated NXT. The fact that there's been nothing for the tag titles, nothing for Undisputed Era, nothing for Tommaso Ciampa for weeks. I think that something really good could happen out of it. Fun could happen out of this. I don't know about good, but fun.
Yeah, I mean McAfee, he's definitely a personality, like you said. He's got a decent look to him, but he's a really good talker, really funny and quick-witted guy. He might look like a mismatch physically. He's a lot bigger than Cole, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, he is. Well, I don't know if you listen to WWE's Tale of the Tape. Adam Cole's 6 feet tall, but
is he?
He's not. I don't know how tall he is, but he's like 5'8", 5'8", maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Pat McAfee's 6'1", 230. Was 230 in the NFL. I don't know if he is now, but
okay. I mean, I look at it like this. Look how Shawn Michaels at like 5'9". Look how he was with Taker, who was probably 6'8" at that point. I mean, if you got the talent, you can make it work. I think Cole can do just fine, like you said.
Yeah, I do too. And I think Cole's a good enough worker to make it work. Evan Wright says, if you want your bird strutting, Throwback 27, big thank you. Check out his show on Tuesdays, guys. He says, hope everyone's been safe. It's been hot all week, 90 degrees and isn't stopping. Losing 10 pounds of water weight a day, it feels like. Is it possible for WWE to have more fans than they have, like New Japan? With New Japan possibly having 14K at their next event. Well,
not in Florida.
That's because people in Japan aren't morons, and they just do whatever it takes to get healthy.
They are starting to see. It looks like they could be seeing another surge about to happen in Japan.
Everything's opened back up, but I mean, they did what they had to do to get there. Yeah, Florida's a mess.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they get even more strict with everything. But at the same time, again, you got the whole DeSantis, Vince McMahon, Donald Trump connection. Very political, what they're doing. And then if you do for WWE, you kind of got to do for AEW as well. But then at the same time, the fact that Tony Khan's dad is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars probably helps them too. So we'll see how that goes. I want to talk about Sammy Guevara. I posted something on Twitter last week that got a polarizing response. So he comes back on Dynamite last week. I suggested that he was brought back quickly because I think they said a month, but the days didn't even add up to a month,
3
right?
Weeks.
3 weeks, exactly.
3 weeks from the time he was suspended to then, yes.
Right, 3 weeks. And so I suggested that he was brought back quickly, not because of the stuff Tony Khan said, not because he completed counseling, not because he's a changed man, not because of anything. He was brought back quickly because he's the breakout star of 2020. He's an integral part of Inner Circle. And I suggested that if he had been lower on the roster, he would not have been brought back. I still believe that.
Yeah.
And there are some people on Twitter that said, well, what do you think the fair, price for his crime should have been? I'm not suggesting 3 weeks isn't fair.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, what he said was bad. He didn't physically assault anybody or anything. He made a comment, what was it, 4 years ago on a podcast that he shouldn't have made. I'm not suggesting 3 weeks isn't fair. I'm suggesting that, and I mean no disrespect to these other names, but if he's Joey Janela, if he's Kip Sabian, he's not coming back in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. And there's a lot of pro AEW people that were critical of what I said, saying, oh, that has nothing to do with it. He completed counseling and he's a changed man. And absolutely it is. It is.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, considering the nature of what happened.
I agree.
He and Sasha had a conversation. Hopefully it's water under the bridge. Makes a lot of sense to me. It was 3.5 weeks, 24 days, basically from the point of suspension, June 22nd, to when he would have been back, which was either, I assume it was Wednesday, July 15th when they taped that. It was a full month off TV. So, I mean, you could say that, and if you could say, oh, well, it was a month pay that got taken from him and donated, I thought they handled it pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, they did. I mean, again, I think if it had been a different talent, because it seems like oftentimes in these situations, people are erring on the side of caution. And so I think if it had been a different talent, they would have kept him out longer just to make sure that they didn't ruffle any feathers. But I agree. I think that the price was equal to the crime. And I'm cool that he's back. And as a fan, I'm glad that he's back.
Yeah, same here. I
want to ask you about Rey Mysterio. So we all agree that the eye for an eye thing was stupid.
Yes.
The optic nerve is intact story is dumb.
Jesus.
It is silly. It is not believable. But the consensus seemed to be that the Rey Mysterio status was going to be dependent on his contract situation. So the consensus seemed to be if they announced that Rey's eye is permanently damaged, then he probably didn't have a new contract coming. If they announced that his eye is going to be okay, he had a new contract coming. Personally, I see Dominic Mysterio, a kid who is not ready, a kid who is not in any way, shape, or form threatening in a major storyline with a major talent on Raw. That tells me Rey Mysterio is sticking around. But have you heard anything about the status of Rey Mysterio?
So the original deal, from what I remembered, was it would be expired this fall, and he had an out clause after 18 months with the company, I think it was. Now, that 18 months, if I remember correctly, and based on the people I've talked to, would have fallen during the pandemic. Now, when you look at things, you're like, okay, well, for Rey Mysterio, what are the positives of him going to AEW? Because it ain't more money. Right now, it ain't a better schedule. And right now, it ain't getting a paycheck for his son. Because right now, Rey Mysterio gets to work once every 2 weeks. Sometimes he wasn't even there this week. He's been working like once a month lately. His kid gets a paycheck, and he's still getting paid. I don't know if he exercised the out clause, but as of right now, his schedule is like amazing, and he's getting WWE money, big WWE money, WWE free agent, scared of AEW money right now. Not like this new, hey, we're going to fire you and bring you back money. So until this is all over, I don't see why he would possibly even leave. Unless AEW came through and they said, damn it, you know what? Whatever WWE has, we'll top it. Oh, and we'll give Rey or we'll give Dominic a contract too, because I'm sure he's getting paid as well. Like, he's not out there working for free.
No,
to me, I don't think that Rey Mysterio could be in a better position right now to just ride it out.
I mean, the only way it would be different is if he hasn't come to terms yet with WWE and he's working, say, per show, and then AEW offers him a guaranteed contract for X number of years. That would be the difference because you want that security for your family. But I'm of the opinion that AEW doesn't want him right now.
Yeah. Because
they've got enough talent as it is. They're supposed to do another show. They haven't started it yet. They've got guys that they're not using either because they can't do their location or because they just don't have enough hours to fill in television.
Yes.
I don't see them wanting him or needing him right now. So as far as I'm concerned, WWE is really his primary landing spot at this point.
Yep. To me, that makes a lot of sense. The style works a little bit better in his favor too, and he's had no problems keeping up with that. And like I said, great schedule, great money. His kid gets a paycheck. What more could you ask for if you're Rey right now?
I agree. Yep, I agree. And honestly, I think he's done a great job under the circumstances. Especially we talk about the stem cell therapy, and man, it's done wonders for him. But guy's like 46 years old, and he's looking good to me.
I mean,
like
look, it fixed his eyeball apparently.
Yeah, it must have. They did injections there too, I guess. I want to ask you about Nia Jax because I read the WWE.com statement. I saw a couple things on Twitter where people were trying to, kind of give their theory on what that statement meant. So I want to ask you. So in storyline, Nia Jax has been fined for, quote, inappropriate contact with multiple WWE officials. That was the words they used, inappropriate contact. The theory on social media seems to be that she got fined for failure to social distance. Is that what it was? Because if so, then it kind of shows how WWE's kind of out to lunch on it. But is that by inappropriate contact? Is that what they meant?
I thought it was a storyline fine.
No, it is a storyline fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, in terms of what did they mean by inappropriate contact? Were they talking about she didn't social distance from the officials?
She pushed the ref a while back or whatever.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was curious because I read
for her getting the refs out of the way this past week on the Shayna gimmick. Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yep.
Okay. Kairi Sane, I saw this video that they put up where, it was kind of like a farewell, and they showed her backstage and talking to Asuka and hugging Stephanie McMahon and everything. One thing out of that video concerned me, Sean Ross Sapp.
What's that?
Asuka saying that before Kairi Sane got to the main roster, Asuka was alone. These were Asuka's words. And that got me thinking, oh, man, I hope Asuka's not going to get homesick now.
Yeah. Yeah. God, man. Like, I don't know what this... WWE is not worried about her going elsewhere, but WWE tried. I don't want to say they tried really hard, but a lot of people tried really hard to keep Kairi Sane aboard. And then when she made it clear that she was leaving, they were like, well, how can we keep her on the payroll? How can we keep her around? Asuka, geez, man. If they lose her, that's a tough one because she's one of the only ones that they've kept building up.
She's been amazing.
Yeah.
Asuka's been amazing. Kairi Sane's been great. I'm going to miss their tag team. I think their tag team was sensational. And I'm going to miss that top rope elbow drop. In my opinion, that was the second best version of the top rope elbow behind Macho Man Randy Savage that I can remember.
I love that one.
I do too. She looked great delivering that move, and I'm going to miss it. And I hope that they do find a way to keep her around. Obviously, they're not going to be touring to Japan anytime soon.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I think now we're going to go to stupid people, Sean Ross Sapp.
Really, already? Let's go to a super chat first.
Sure.
I got a few of these. Rob Wilkins says, let's say WWE did a best of Stone Cold or Rock and advertised it for a few weeks. Would ratings and demos do better than the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday show? I don't think so. I think original content is what does it. For all I know, they could have done 10 of those on Fox Sports 1, and I would have no idea about it. But what do you think, Jimmy?
I still wish that they had have done what I talked about for 3 months, which is show one classic match a week and have those wrestlers do commentary over it through webcams like what they did on Backstage. I would have found that very entertaining, and I wish they had done it. And as a matter of fact, about a week ago, I was flipping channels one night, and I think it was on Sportsnet in Canada. They showed Steve Austin's interview with Bret Hart from the network.
Yeah.
And during that interview, Steve Austin and Bret Hart watched their match from WrestleMania 13 and did live commentary while they're watching the match. I was captivated by that. Not just because the match was good, but I was captivated listening to them give you kind of like little inside secrets and stuff from doing it.
Yeah.
And my wife was sitting next to me on the couch, and my wife goes, "Isn't this what you've been talking about on the podcast for like 3 months?" I said, yes. I wish they would do it because that would be entertaining. And again, and I'm a broken record on this stuff. You've got The Rock, you've got John Cena, you got Batista. All these guys are sitting at home doing nothing. And so why not call up The Rock and say, hey, we're going to show your match from, I don't know, WrestleMania 15 with Steve Austin, and we're going to get you guys both on webcam, and you're going to do live commentary. You think The Rock wouldn't do that? The guy's sitting at home doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't understand.
I would have had them come to the Performance Center and do some shit too. It's
sure,
so
whatever,
weird
yeah.
that they didn't.
Yeah. It kills me. It kills me. And it was funny because on that earnings call or on the annual shareholders call, Frank Riddick, and obviously he's drinking the Kool-Aid, on at least 2 occasions he made reference to how creative WWE has been.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Matter of fact, what was the quote? I actually wrote it down at one point. He said something about I don't think I can find it here now. He said something about like fantastically creative or something like that was a quote. Talking about, they had to pivot because of COVID, and look, they're delivering content every week. They've really dropped the ball on some of these very obvious ideas that would have been successful for them.
Yeah,
and it is what it is.
I'm with you. Evan Wright says, I'd rather WWE or AEW sign guys like Will Hobbs, Sean Dean, Eddie Kingston, Pineapple Pete, and other guys they've used on Dark than all that money on Rey. Those guys would not make a ding compared to what Rey would cost them.
That's just it.
Not a ding. And Tim Traver says, damn. Found out a friend passed away from a car crash. Drunk driver killed my friend. Yeah, if you drink and drive, you're a fucking moron, guys. Don't do that. Stupid people. Quite appropriate.
Yep. Now, after this, if you go to FightfulSelect.com, soon to be Fightful Select on Fightful.com. Well, that's another topic for another day. If you go to FightfulSelect.com, we are going to talk about MVP. We're going to talk about SummerSlam. We're going to talk about Impact Wrestling. We're going to talk about Leo Rush. We're going to talk about Enzo Amore. That's an interesting one. Going to talk some NWA. So go to Fightful Select for the list goes on after this, and we will do that. Okay. So this is once again, is this only the coronavirus edition this week? Yeah, I guess it is.
Maybe.
I think it might be. Oh, no, it's not. No, there's other stuff. So this is the not just coronavirus edition of Stupid People this week. This first one, Sean, this was reported by the Associated Press on July 22nd. A 25-year-old man in New York, his name is Robert Berger. He was scheduled to be sentenced to a year in jail on theft-related charges. All right? Prior to his sentencing, his girlfriend called their attorney with some unfortunate news. His girlfriend informed their attorney that Mr. Robert Berger had taken his own life.
Oof.
Committed suicide. The lawyer said, well, that's unfortunate. You got to get me a copy of the death certificate so that we can kind of wrap things up. Gets a copy of the death certificate. There was a problem. Any idea?
It was fake.
There were spelling mistakes on the death certificate. That's when they were able to determine that something smelled a little bit fishy. So they took the death certificate to, I think it was in Jersey, and confirmed that one was never produced and that Mr. Berger had not killed himself. And here's the sad part, man. So Mr. Robert Berger, he was facing a year for theft, right? Now, because of what he did, he's behind bars. His bail is set as $1 million, and he now faces up to 4 years in prison. His lawyer quit because of all this. And now Mr. Robert Berger has a public defender. Oh. So that 4 years could turn into 12.
Oh yeah, that's a year, man. I know it sucked, but just do that year, man.
Do that year, and because of COVID, they probably let him out in 6 months.
Maybe less.
You know what I mean?
Behave, and maybe you're out less than that.
Right? Like, come on. This is why you're on Stupid People. Yeah. That's the reason. This next one, this is reported by NPR.org on July 16. I have spoken before about Georgia Governor Brian Kemp on this podcast. This is the guy who, like 2 months into COVID, finally realized that you can be asymptomatic, because apparently he didn't know that before. This is the guy who, when they had a backlog of driver's license applications, he decided to clear that backlog by granting tens of thousands of teenagers their license without a road test. This is the guy.
Yeah.
And now Mr. Brian Kemp, he's made the news again because he is suing the mayor of Atlanta. So he is suing the mayor of his own state's largest city.
Why?
Keisha Lance is her name. Why is he suing her? Because she wants face masks to be mandatory in public places.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's happening. That's happening here too. Our governor has been, I think, sued or legal action taken because he wants to mandate it. Yeah, it keeps people safe.
Yes, so she wants to mandate it, and he is suing her. And according to the lawsuit, and this is one of these big dick swinging contests, according to the lawsuit, Kemp says that he alone, quote, leads the state of Georgia in its fight against the worldwide novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. And he also has the power to, quote, suspend municipal orders that are contradictory to any state law or to his executive order. So in other words, I'm the boss. I'm going to do things my way, even if my way is stupid. And so that's why he's suing the mayor of Georgia. I got to tell you, I'm not political. I am nonpartisan. I'm Canadian. Brian Kemp and Ron DeSantis are idiots. They are two of the worst government figures that I can recall reading about. And I don't know how they get reelected.
You see who cares about people in situations like this. You see who's there for the people, and then you see who's there for the money.
Right. Yeah, and I think he's been an embarrassment. This last one, Sean.
Oh, boy.
This one is for the SRS file. This one was reported by Hot 96.9 Boston on June 29. You're going to like this one. Is that
a hip-hop station?
Yeah, it might be. I don't know.
I think it is.
Oh, maybe. So WIS News 10 out of Columbia, South Carolina, they did a story about people not wanting to wear face masks. You know, this is a problem, particularly in the U.S., where there's a lot of people defying orders to wear face masks. They did a story about it. On their Facebook page, a woman named Cheryl Gilbert responded, posted a comment responding to the story about the face masks. And she is in favor of not having to wear one, Sean. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want you to have to wear a face mask. She doesn't want them to be mandatory. Any reason why Miss Cheryl Gilbert doesn't want face masks to be mandatory?
Because she's a piece of shit.
Could very well be. No, this is what she posted. She said, quote, "My husband had to wear a mask on a business trip, and now he has chlamydia."
Do you remember that Seinfeld episode where somebody got gonorrhea from a tractor?
Yes, I do. It was a girl that Jerry dated. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, as you can imagine, people by the dozen responded to Cheryl Gilbert to let her know that's not how you get chlamydia. So if your husband basically, that was his excuse, if he said to you, "Oh my God, how'd that happen? It must be from wearing that mask."
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that one.
Damn, that's good. First off, I would just have loved to have been a part of the conversation where he clued her in on that. Sure. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, can you imagine when she probably started reading those comments and,
yes.
How do you how do you talk to your husband at that point?
Well, let's talk some Bayley since we've got some super chats about her.
Sure, we'll talk Bayley, and then after that, I'm going to get to my personal story.
Yeah,
but
of course, that's why I wanted to get it in. Hannah Moore says, "Shop released limited edition women's pins today. Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, Asuka, Kyrie, and Alexa. No Bayley. Isn't that weird?"
It is, actually. It is. Well, here is what happened with Ember Moon. So Ember Moon on her Twitch channel was kind of ripping on – she wasn't ripping on Bayley and Sasha personally.
Yes.
She was ripping on WWE's decision to put all the titles on Bayley and Sasha. And this is a quote from Ember Moon. She said, "Sasha and Bayley have done a great job with a limited roster, but there are too many people sitting at home to tie up all the titles with two people." And obviously, this has kind of been one of the things you've heard for a long time about the roster is that everybody's all buddy-buddy. There's not the kind of competitive nature there used to be. And this kind of shines through with Ember Moon's comment. She's thinking, there's other girls. Why don't you give Lacey Evans a shot? Why don't you give Naomi a shot? Why don't you give somebody else a shot? All I have to say is this. Sasha and Bayley are what's interesting right now. They are what's hot right now, and you run with your hot hand. That's what you do. Yes. And so I have no issue with it at all. And does it suck maybe that Naomi's not being pushed, Lacey Evans isn't being pushed, whoever's not being pushed? Sure, maybe. But Sasha and Bayley right now are the hot hand, and I think them together have been fantastic. I'm not going to lie. I hated the fact that Sasha won by countout on Asuka, especially when Bayley's assault of Kairi Sane was not so serious that it needed Asuka to lose her title to make the save on something like that. But I think that them together, I think they've been a really great act. I think having all the titles is good to add to their story. And if they do eventually split them, it adds to that program. So I'm cool with it.
I am too. I'm fine with it because it's the best thing on WWE TV right now across any brand. And the tag titles are the golden ticket. It's been established they're the golden ticket, and I'm completely fine with that. Throwback 27 says, "Sean's Bo Sox jersey is on the way for the 800 subscribers on Select. It's the end of the month, so briefly in a couple days, it'll dip back below. It just always does that." But he says, WWE giving Bayley and Banks the titles, Lee giving up the North American title. Is having Bayley and Banks having the titles decreasing the competition level in one brands or improving it? I think theirs is improving it. I hate Keith Lee winning both of those titles, then saying, and now I'm going to give somebody else an opportunity. It's him saying, as Jeremy Lambert said, hey, I am above this championship now, so I'm going to let you guys play around for it. Not to mention, Jimmy, they're deciding it in a ladder match. It would have been very easy to put him in the ladder match, and then he doesn't have to get pinned. He just doesn't win it.
But he still loses it in the ring.
Yeah. I hate what they did with the Keith Lee thing. It was such a reactionary bullshit thing to 2 nights of Fyter Fest. That's what it was. They're like, all right, let's move it. Bayley and Banks, on the other hand, I get the feeling that we're going to see them pulling double duty. I think we'll see Sasha defend against somebody, Bayley defend against like 5 people at one time, and then the tag titles get defended too, and Bayley gets overwhelmed. But to me, Bayley and Sasha are the best thing on TV, and they bring everybody up. I mean, they've helped Nikki Cross a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, Bayley has really come into her own as a heel, as I mentioned earlier. And again, I thought it was a mistake to turn her heel at first. I thought that they really dropped the ball with her as a babyface, but she's really come into her own. Her ability to improvise, because a lot of what she does out there is full-on improvisation. And her ability to do that, I think, is great. I actually think that she's been a bigger performer than Sasha through this whole thing. And but together, I think they're a great act. I have no problem with them having all the titles. And again, the other girls right now in the moment have to take a back seat because they're the hot hand right now. Yep. That might not be the case in 6 months, but they are right now.
Yep, I agree.
And you got to go with it. Yeah, I have no problem with it.
So,
any more super chats?
That's it right now. I'm sure that we'll get a couple through whenever you break the news of what's going on. Where have you been?
Where have I been? Okay, so I was on the fence if I was going to tell this story or if I was going to wait for a little while, and I decided I'm going to tell it now for 2 reasons, and in a minute I will get into what those 2 reasons are. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to start by saying, if you are a longtime viewer of this podcast, you might remember that in November of 2018, my father passed away. At the time I talked about it on this podcast, I showed the trailer for the documentary that I produced about my parents at the time. And so I was pretty public about it. What I have never talked about before publicly in a live setting like this, and I never even told Sean about this, is that 5 months after my dad passed away, so it was in April of 2019, my sister was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. Oh. I have one sister, 3.5 years older than me. Her name's Sherry. She was diagnosed with melanoma, and she battled for 15 months. And on July 6th, 3 weeks ago, she lost her fight.
I'm so
sorry.
So
the reason that I've been absent from this podcast is I've been spending a lot of time away. I've been spending a lot of time at home, visiting with her, visiting with my mother. Obviously, in about 1.5 years, you lose your father and your sister.
Sure.
Been a bit of a difficult period. But I decided to talk about this for 2 reasons now. The first reason is that if my sister's story could even help one person, and if it could potentially save even one life, then I think it's a story that I should tell.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about it for that reason. And in my sister's case, her diagnosis started with a mole on the small of her back. Mm-hmm. She had a mole in a place where she just never noticed it. And we imagine over time it probably changed color, it probably changed shape. Never noticed it, not until it started to bother her. And by the time she got it checked out, the cancer had gotten into her blood. And it had spread to different parts of her body. And so that's what we had to deal with. So my first message is, if you have a mole anywhere on your body, especially one of significance, keep an eye on it. And even if you think that you're being paranoid and, I just think maybe it's changing, but it's not, get yourself checked out because it could save your life. Yes. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing I want to say is, I mentioned that I did that documentary. I did that documentary because I wanted to create a keepsake for my family and especially for my kids. I wanted them to have something where years down the road they could look back and see who their dad's parents were. That's the reason that I did it. But something else came out of that, and I'm referring to it as a unintentional byproduct of doing that documentary. I found that it really helped me to cope with the grief I was dealing with at the time and the stress I was dealing with at the time, and ultimately the loss that I was dealing with. I felt that it helped me to talk about it, and it helped me to channel the negativity into something positive. Mm-hmm. So when my sister was diagnosed, I sought out something similar. I sought out some kind of an outlet. I wanted to do something for the same reason. I wanted to do something to help me channel that grief into something positive. And what I've just decided to do, and Sean knows this, I am creating my own charity organization. It's called Grappling with Grief. And what we are going to do is we are going to tell people stories. So we're going to tell people stories, true stories of coping with grief, coping with tragedy, not just physical illness, but mental illness too. And we're going to tell people stories of how they channeled those things into something positive. I'm going to be talking to Sean about his friend Cheyenne, who passed away from cancer. Sean grew out his hair for her. We hit up AEW and were able to get publicity for the haircut to help drive awareness and drive prevention, because that's something that I want to do. And there's a lot of other stories that I'm going to tell. I'm going to be adding content to it every week. So the website's not live yet, but what we do have live that I can start promoting now is we have our Twitter account live. I don't know if you can see this. That's the handle for the Twitter account right there.
At Grap Grief.
At Grap Grief. Yeah, GRAPGRIEF, at Grap Grief. Now, one thing I got to say is, in order to be a legitimate charity, you have to have a tax number from the government. The government is very strict on this stuff because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of fraud with people claiming to have a charity when they don't. It's going to take me probably upwards of 12 months to get a charity number. And so that means that for the next 12 months, I cannot solicit donations. I cannot accept donations financially. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to continue to, move forward with plans. I'm going to continue putting up content every week. Going to continue telling people stories. And I'm going to do that because even though I can't accept donations, I can still promote awareness. I can still promote prevention. And I can promote whatever the people whose stories I tell want to promote. If they have their own charity, anything that they're working on, we can promote that. So what you can do in the short term, even though you can't support us financially, if you follow us on Twitter, and again, I'll put it up here at Grap Grief, that will help us out. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we don't have a custom URL yet because you need to have 100 subscribers to get a custom URL. Yeah. We just launched and I haven't promoted it yet. And so we don't have 100 subscribers. So if you will follow us on Twitter and if you will subscribe to us on YouTube, then I can get the custom URL and that will help us promote things further. But that's the story, man. So that's why I've been away. And again, thanks to Denise for filling in for me. And Sean, I did not tell. I don't know if you knew this because a lot of my office knew because I posted something on my personal Facebook page about it. And my office got wind of it. So I don't know if you knew. And I apologize that I didn't. Oh, you didn't know? Okay. I apologize I didn't tell you. But I didn't tell you because, number one, it's not something I'm talking about with a lot of people. But number two, I love getting Sean's live reactions whenever we do this podcast.
This?
Well, just in general, I like getting genuine reaction, to anything. And so that's why I prefer to not give a heads up.
Dick stories are one thing. A relative passed away. You wanted my reaction to that?
Okay, I'm not going to lie. It was not at the forefront of my mind. I should call Sean.
Sure.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, thanks.
So,
but yeah, I mean, I'm glad to have you back, and I'm sorry to hear about that. And I'm happy to be a part of this, and I know that the people that watch our show will be happy to support it as well. That's heavy, man. Tough.
Yep.
I did a
it sucked. It
dick
did.
Pill ad on this same show.
It's okay. It's okay. No, I mean, obviously it's something that you don't think of, right? I mean, my father was almost 81, so in his case, he had a good long life. My sister was 49.
Yeah. So
that's something that you don't anticipate, but I'm going to make sure that I honor her legacy. Her and my father are the two inspirations for creating this charity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go full bore on it. Like, I'm going to really put effort into it. And like I said, we already have some content up. So if you go to our YouTube or our Twitter, we have some content up, and I'm going to continue producing content every week and putting something up new every week. And we're going to tell people stories and, like I said, promote awareness and prevention, and that's it.
That's one of the reasons I'm very happy to work here and work with Fightful. I can tell you that I've worked with some places, and the thought of charity or giving back or anything like that was never broached. And I see you specifically doing that often. Our friend Wild Boy, I mean, not just you, but a lot of our viewers got together and helped him out. And like there's been a lot of that. And Throwback, who's been in the chat, I see him constantly giving back to people. So that is the type of environment that I like to help foster for Fightful, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. And I mean, guys, definitely support that, and quite frankly, your story might end up being told on this platform as well. I would imagine there's plenty of there's plenty of different things and ways to approach that, but I'm glad.
I'm not gonna lie, I am definitely gonna utilize your Twitter following, Sean. Not gonna lie, but no, I mean, obviously, I am gonna utilize Fightful social media presence to a degree, but I'm kind of at the same time looking beyond, you know.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to get the word out and start reaching out to people, because there are a lot of stories out there of people who have dealt with grief in their lives and channeled it into something good. So I just want to tell those stories. I already did one with Anshul, a girl that you know.
Yeah,
I interviewed her, and that's the first interview that I have up there right now. Her story is unbelievable.
Yes.
So you check out her story, but that's the kind of stuff that I want to talk about, because I'm not alone in what I've dealt with. Anshul's not alone in what she's dealt with. Wild Boy's not alone in what he's dealt with.
Yeah.
And so I want to do this to kind of just help people cope. Yeah. Maybe help them heal, and maybe inspire them to channel it into something good as well. That's kind of the goal.
Very excited to see that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's one of the things that keeps you at Fightful." When Jimmy brought me to Toronto, I met people like Anshul who don't even work for Jimmy anymore, but are still loyal to him, and again, the environment that he fosters there. And she became, quite frankly, one of me and my wife's good friends. We talk to her every time. Every time we're in Toronto. She hasn't worked for you for what, 3 years now?
4.
3 or 4. We still see her every single time we come into town, and she has experienced
have you seen this,
a lot.
By the way, not that I want to, because people that don't know her, I don't want to take up too much time. But have you seen this?
Yeah.
So she just gave me this. She signed it to me and gave it to me. So she's doing some good things.
I tell you what, when people joke and they say, "Sean, you moving to Toronto?" and I'm like, they wouldn't let her stay for a while.
No, and we told that story in the interview that I did with her. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. But guys, we are on Fightful Select right after this. I didn't do a plug for Fightful Select today. Go ahead, subscribe. We got news every day. I've been working on a series since COVID started. I guess we're going to call it like Brass Ring or something like that. I'm reaching out to WWE wrestlers and I'm saying, hey, who is working hard to get better? Who's working hard to improve? Whether people know it or not, let me know. And I've had that on the back burner for a while. I wanted something positive out there during COVID. And then I just started to get more stories. So now what I've done is circle back and asked other wrestlers about these people that have been identified. So I'm going to try to get one of those up a week on Select, and it'll have some anonymous quotes from some pretty high-level WWE people, but check that out. But we are on The List Goes On right after this. Until next time, guys, we're out.